in the nation in most of the preseason polls. In the first half of the LSU football game, they lived up to that ranking. The wishbone was working well with number 11, Ken Coley, at the controls. Coley, with his quick feet, turned the corner on the Tiger defense several times. Ken Simon, number 20, broke a long run up the middle for a touchdown. The final score of this first game of the season, Alabama 24, LSU 7. Alabama's offense started turning the ball over at critical times, a problem that would plague them until the Penn State game. Georgia Tech was well prepared and well coached. The big man for the Yellow Jackets was Robert Levette. He caught several key passes and scored 2 touchdowns running. One of them came late in the fourth quarter, putting Tech in front 24-21. With time running out, Alabama had a chance to tie. A 50-yard field goal attempt was just short. One of the biggest upsets of the year was in the record books. The Tide then traveled to Kentucky, where they rebounded from the loss at Legion Field. The Wildcats, though, gave them all they could handle. One could sense there were still some problems to be ironed out, both on and off the field. Lenny Patrick, a running back, and Thomas Boyd, a linebacker, had both been suspended for breaking training regulations. Bama did pull it out, 19-10. Week 4 of the season found Alabama on the road again, this time in Nashville against Vanderbilt. The Commodores fell 28-7. The Tide's record was now 3-1. But the controversy this team was to experience off the field was coming to the forefront. An article appeared in the Atlanta Constitution after the Vanderbilt game. It claimed there were morale problems and racial unrest on the team. Coach Bryant talked about it at his weekly news conference. That alleged racial controversy brought Alabama together as a team. The next game was against Ole Miss in Tuscaloosa. As one observer put it, the Tide would have beaten anybody in the country on this day. The final score was 38-7. Every phase of the game belonged to the men in crimson shirts. Even more important, they were playing and pulling for one another. This had become a football team. But the pieces weren't all together yet. In Birmingham, 1 week later, Southern Mississippi was the opponent. Joe Carter turns upfield for Alabama and runs for a touchdown. But the Golden Eagles proved to America and Alabama that they were indeed deserving of a top 20 ranking. They have a great quarterback in Reggie Collier, here running 5 yards for a touchdown. With Southern Miss down 13-10 in the final minute, Collier passed his team into field goal range. With just 8 seconds left, the field goal attempt was through the uprights. The game ended in a 13-13 tie. That tie was the final disappointment of the 1981 season. The Crimson Tide reeled off 5 straight victories, 3 of them by decisive margins. The first was at Legion Field against Tennessee. Bama won it 38-19. The starting quarterback was senior Alan Gray, number 14. It was his first starting assignment of the year. Gray ran the offense to perfection. Alabama led 28-0 at halftime. The Alabama defense started showing signs of the recklessness that would help them in later weeks. Fresh from a win over the Vols, the Tide hosted Rutgers for homecoming in Tuscaloosa. Again, a big win. 31-7 would be the final, and again, Alan Gray had the offense clicking. Bama played 3 quarterbacks all year: Gray, Ken Coley, who was hurt at midseason, and sophomore Walter Lewis, an excellent passer. Lewis connects here with Jesse Bendros for a score against the Scarlet Knights. The big wins over Tennessee and Rutgers set up what everybody knew would be a tough battle. A rematch with the Mississippi State Bulldogs, a team that had upset them a year earlier. This year, the game was in Tuscaloosa. The Bulldogs jumped out to an early lead, but it wasn't long before Alabama's offense got cranked up as well. In this game, the bounce of the football was decidedly in favor of the Crimson Tide. This game was an emotional one for the Tide defense. Bama leads at 13-10. We're in the final minutes. State's John Bond hits Danny Knight with a pass. The ball is down at the Alabama 9-yard line. 2 plays later, Bond to pass. Eddie Lowe tips the ball. All-American safety Tommy Wilcox comes up with an interception. Alabama wins it. Their record is 7-1-1. The game with the Nittany Lions was in State College. The second week in a row, Alabama would play a team in the nation's top 10. This Crimson Tide team had saved their best performance of the year for this game. Walter Lewis was the star of the day. He threw 2 touchdown passes to Jesse Bendros. His most spectacular pass set up a field goal. It was a 57-yard bomb to the fastest man on the team, number 4, Joey Jones. This was a day for the defense, too. Early third quarter, Penn State inside the Bama 5. Because of a penalty, the Nittany Lions had 7 chances to score. The Bama defense refused to budge. The final score of the football game, 31-16. For Coach Paul Bryant, it was career win number 314, tying him with Amos Alonzo Stagg. And the Bear, the legend and the protege, one going for the ultimate victory, the other looking for a milestone in his young career. Chuck Clanton, a sophomore from Florida, provided almost instant excitement for Auburn, returning the first punt of the game, 44 yards down to the Alabama 13. The Tigers, unfortunately, came away empty after a missed short field goal attempt. On the Tide's second possession, senior Allen Gray finds a crease in the defense and rips off 63 yards to the Auburn 21. 3 plays later, Allen would cross the plane of the goal line, and the Tide had the first points of the game at 7:47 of the first quarter. Peter Kim's placement made it 7-0. Auburn started a drive at its own 30 late in the first quarter, only to have it halted 10 plays later when Ken Hobby's pass to Ed West was intercepted at the goal line by Tommy Wilcox. The biggest play for Auburn came late in the second quarter when George Peoples, who gained 155 yards on 26 carries, gets a large share of it on this 63-yard jaunt to the end zone. Al Del Greco's extra point tied the game at 7. On the next series, Allen Gray fumbles. Auburn recovers, first and goal at the 10. But again, the Tigers' field goal attempt on 4th down was no good. Quarterback Ken Coley came on for the Tide in the third quarter. On Alabama's first series, he began a drive on his own 45 and ended it with a shovel pass to Jesse Vindros. Vindros gets a great block in the secondary and puts Bama ahead with a 26-yard touchdown run. 14-7 Alabama. The Tide held Auburn on the next series, but Joey Jones was unable to handle Alan Bollinger's punt, and Chuck Clanton recovered for Pat Dye's team at the 2-yard line. This time, Auburn would not be denied. Lionel Little Train James scored his team's second touchdown with a 2-yard sweep. This game was tied at 14. With just 34 seconds gone in the fourth quarter, Del Greco kicked his only field goal of the day, this from 19 yards away. And Auburn shocked the crowd and a national TV audience by pulling ahead 17-14. The rest of the game belonged to Alabama, though. The next time the Tide had the football, Walter Lewis was at the controls. Walter guided the team 75 yards in 7 plays, culminating with a perfect touchdown pass to the sure-handed Jesse Vindros. With the extra point kick, Alabama was back on top, 17-14. Then it was time to highlight Lenny Patrick. The sophomore from Jasper tore through the Auburn defense for a 15-yard touchdown midway through the final quarter. The final score, 28-17. For Paul William Bear Bryant, victory number 315 had been achieved.
Rutgers